We know the corruption perception index. I mean, that is an independent assessment. Independent assessment. And everyone knows that under Akufo-Addo Bawumia, their best record was, I mean, their best record is the worst record under a previous regime. Everything that he told us that he was going to do to fight corruption, adopt the Anas principle. Anas himself has now become a fugitive because Akufo-Addo and elements within his government have fought Anas to the extent that Anas doesn't even feel safe to be in this environment. Should I mention Manasseh?
Whenever I say ma PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
Mema wakwaba edeba PENDREAM TV, so make sure say obe subscribe to channel no click bell so say the news to our sabi to me aka ntem no watie afa so make sure say obe like it na comment no share ama afoforo so nsaka na comment section ho so no opese wo kire wadwen abetimi ede wadwen kire ato honom na manfo so anya bia kenkan na onim say PENDREAM TV there eye nsem a ekoso Ghana yam politics mu ne ede ba na saka ya ne ede abranti na so me video I saka pese no che na ye dey ba nti me mo modern astro so obehwe video we amana si awie na wa kire wa adwen our comment section na say yenko video.
For me, it is ironical that we are celebrating, rightly so, an edifice that is going to enhance justice delivery. And we also get to hear the Chief Justice still making a passionate appeal for more to be done in terms of infrastructure and other facilities and amenities to enhance justice delivery. Because justice delivery, I believe, also includes the well-being of those who are mandated to superintend and ensure that citizens get justice if and when necessary. So the irony I am seeing and I want to point out is that we are celebrating an edifice, but we fail to criticize the demolition of worthy accommodation that was housing judges. Oh. I mean, so it's almost as though we negate the good we want to do.
It's a balancing act
by something that truly is unjustifiable.
It's a balancing act.
Just imagine how this new edifice would have added to
what we
already had if those bungalows, which we paid serious amounts of money to build, were there. As we speak now, we are having to pay to house our judges in private residences. Think about what those monies that we have to pay to provide decent accommodation to our judges in private residences could have also done in furthering.
Have we rented for them?
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
Initially, but I think there's a new arrangement. Which,
well, do your checks, but as far as I know, that has not happened.
Yeah.
But so I just want you to appreciate.
You know, we also cut short, I think in 2001 for Law Village.
No, but let me add that. Listen, when you go to Kumasi, for instance,
what's the Law Village?
Many housing opportunities have been created for legal.
The point I'm making is that
this was commissioned about 2 months ago.
Add-on, we would have moved a bit further.
Yeah.
You understand? If for nothing at all, the resources that we are spending to accommodate our judges would have also been used to enhance and add on. And the likely expenditure. You see, you want me to slow down?
No. No. Points well made.
I'm making the point.
Points well made.
So if we want to discuss these matters, we must discuss them holistically. And that is my concern. We cannot be celebrating an edifice when we are also guilty of creating a project that has wasted public resources which could have enhanced the justice delivery system by allowing the justices to live in those residencies, but then using the money that we are using to rent
religion complements the law
to add on additional infrastructure.
Religion
complements the law. I have a serious number of issues to raise with regards to the president's commentary.
Religion complements the law.
He speaks about
it does.
You will not sway me. He speaks about peace and order and gives an indication that the security agencies would do their job in ensuring that there is peace and security. That is a good call. But we ought to ask ourselves whether this current government, the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led MPP government, and even the president himself, his posturing and pronouncements promote peace, unity, and coexistence. When you make pronouncements in an election year that many observers believe is going to be tension-packed, competitive, that you will not hand over to somebody you are beaten twice. What impression are you creating? When we know that it is the people who have the mandate as granted by the Constitution to decide who becomes their president. When you appoint politically exposed persons who belong to your political party as directors of an independent body, that the Electoral Commission, in the face of opposition and caused by independent citizens and civil society organizations, to step that back, because it creates, reasonably so, suspicion of a plot to manipulate the will of the people. You are setting the stage for a heightened propensity of rejecting the outcome because of the characters who have been put in place to man an otherwise independent entity. So the president's own conduct, and if I may I add, the issue of selective justice, where two people commit the same offense, and yet one walks away, and the other one is dealt with according to the law as per the agile response by security agencies. Why is it that somebody can fire a weapon, a sidearm, in a public space and walk away, and yet somebody is found to have a weapon in her car, duly registered, and she is arrested and detained? So all of these things have implications for peace and security. And so when we begin to see and people begin to notice selective justice, inequality, and the wanton use of state security apparatus has not even met that standard.
Apaak.
The minimum standard. We know the corruption perception index. I mean, that is an independent assessment. Independent assessment. And everyone knows that under Akufo-Addo Bawumia, their best record was, their best record is the worst record under a previous regime. Everything that he told us that he was going to do to fight corruption, adopt the Anas principle. Anas himself has now become a fugitive because Akufo-Addo and elements within his government have fought Anas to the extent that Anas doesn't even feel safe to be in this environment. Should I mention Manasseh? Almost every entity that has risen, and even individual public citizens, to fight corruption or to take up the fight against corruption under Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, have themselves become targets Look at what happened to Domolovo, one of the best auditor generals. And he knows, we sit on the Public Accounts Committee, that Ghana has ever had. Selfless, willing to apply the law without fear or favor. Look at the circumstances under which he was ousted from office. All because he had the boldness to stand up for the people of Ghana in challenging an expenditure that could not be justified. And the list goes on and on and on and on.
That also,
I mean, we know that this president has the penchant of interfering in processes that ought to be allowed to traverse by themselves when allegations of corruption are made against public officers.
Natural justice.
And we see even the current special prosecutor openly lamenting, practically crying and weeping, my, like a baby.
Really?
Uncle Menam, I walk alone. Uncle Nam, I walk alone. I mean, that is how bad it is. So if anyone is to talk to us and lecture us about corruption, it cannot be Akufo-Addo and Bawumia. They have failed. In fact, corruption has won the fight against Ghana under Akufo-Addo and Bawumia. And I can give you a litany of examples.
We're talking about...
Wait, let me make my submission.
Sure.
You want to know the message we have. I'm giving you the message we have. Look at even this Apaak case. In which system where laws are allowed to work, where anti-graft laws work, with the discovery of $1 million
anti-money laundering
US dollars and quantums of Ghanaian cedis in a room, a residential spaces, not attract serious sanction. But what did our president do? Love letter to Cecilia Dapa, way before the security agencies and the requisite institutions started to nibble at looking at the issue. Practically, we were told that at the end of the day, Cecilia Dapa would work, and it has happened. So where is the fight against corruption? Look at the issue of sole source contracts. When Akufo-Addo and Bawumia were in opposition, what are the accusations they made against the NDC and John Mahama administration? Was that we were corrupt. And that one of the conduits for that corruption was sole source contracts. Go and check. This government has granted the most sole source contracts and is almost 8 years in office. Compared to sole source contracts, I would argue, although I'm here to do the research, from Kwame Nkrumah to John Dramani Mahama, day in, day out, even the educational sector alone, I can give you a litany. At the time Akufo-Addo was in opposition, Bawumia as well, their argument was that the issue of public sector corruption is facilitated through the conduit of sole source sole source contracts awarding, procurement. And yet they have come and they have magnified it to dizzying levels. And as some have argued, corruption has now become a social intervention program under this Akufo-Addo Bawumia MPP government. And we can justify that. If I were to begin to recite the scandals, we wouldn't finish the program today. The only thing that can change the current trajectory is a change in government. And that is why John Dramani Mahama has said that when he comes, his own appointees will be held accountable. And he will hold appointees of previous administrations accountable. That is what you do. And he has a record of doing that. As president, some of his own appointees were investigated and held accountable. Unlike the clearing agent president, quote unquote, who immediately intervenes and sets the stage for his accused appointees to work. And let me say that the current flag bearer of the MPP, unlike our flag bearer, who has been bold to speak about corruption and to speak about his willingness and tested record of holding his own accountable. I have not heard Mahmoud Bawumia speak about punishing members of his own party if he's given the nod to become president. So what that tells me is that the current status quo is going to continue. And as we have argued, one of the reasons why, the current ruling clan was much more in favor of Mahmoud Bawumia compared to any other candidate is because he is going to come and cover the rot, the great loot and share.
That is
of course. But he's a member of the same government.
That is not the case.
We are accusing
that is not the case. I think
not dealing with allegations of corruption.
I think I can have some bites.
Do you truly think that if Bawumia were to become president, he will resurrect any investigation?
Can I have some bites?
Into even the situation of the party?
But for someone who has claimed to take the position of a mate, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe when he comes, he will do something differently.
He can't do anything different.
He will disassociate himself
from the
driver's governance.
Look, he is incapable of detaching himself.
There are two things I need
from the current system, the current status quo. He is incapable. Yes, look, Apaak, if you want me to be honest, Bawumia is a piece of clay in the hands of Akufo-Addo.
Hey.
He is not a man of his own. What he is doing,
don't misjudge his humility.
Is going to be molded by Akufo-Addo. It is clear and simple and straightforward. No. We know. Ghanaians know this.
So now that I can make a few points.
I haven't given you the chance.
Oh, so the point I'm making is that when it comes to the issue of corruption and the fight against corruption, don't take it from me. Take it from Martin Hamidu. Take it from Kisia Jabeng. Take it from what has happened to all the known Ghanaian crusaders against corruption. I mean, look at the deals. So opaque, no transparency, no accountability. I mean, wanton disregard for laid down rules and procedures.